Hi there, this is Sean, the Honest Book Reviewer, with another book review. In this video, we're discussing F is for Fugitive, written by Sue Grafton. It's book 6 in the Alphabet Murder series. This is another great book in the series. What's different about this is that it really revolves around a cold case, and it's very different from books A to E. And it also takes Kinsey away from home turf. So she goes to a small town to investigate this cold case. So in this book, we don't get the familiar characters. We get a bit of Henry at the start. We don't get any of Rosie, but we get a tiny bit of Henry. But I want more of Henry in each of these books, and also want Rosie as well. So while I still enjoy the book, and I get the fact that we need to take Kinsey out of her home turf every now and then, I still prefer the books where she's on her home turf and we have those characters that I really enjoy, like Henry and Rosie. Like I said, the plot revolves around a cold case. So how this starts is Royce Fowler. He comes to visit Kinsey. He's in town for treatment for cancer, and he wants a private detective in the meantime. The reason for this is his son Bailey was convicted of murder 17 years ago. He did admit to the murder, but Royce believes his son's innocent, and now Bailey is saying he's innocent, that he only admitted to the murder because he was coerced or something like that. Kinsey takes on the case. Well, it's money for Kinsey. She's not going to say no to that. And after taking on the case, she hot-foots it off to Floral Beach. At Floral Beach, she's staying at the hotel that Royce owns and runs with his wife, Ori, and their daughter Anne is helping out because both Royce and Ori are seriously ill, and Anne's looking after them and also just helping out look after the motel while they're feeling poorly. Early on, Kinsey learns two things. First, she learns that Bailey's not making it easy for himself to prove his innocence. So he was convicted of the murder 17 years ago. He was in prison for about 1 year, I think, of his sentence, and then he escaped. And for the last 16 years, he's been on the run, basically. And the reason he's caught now is just by accident. He changed his name, and someone else in the area where he was living had the same name and was wanted for something. And the police picked him up, and they realised he wasn't the person they were looking for that crime. But when they took his fingerprints and ran them through the system, they came up as Bailey Fowler. And they realised that we've got Bailey Fowler here who's been on the lam for 16 years, so they quickly nabbed him and he's back in custody. So he's on trial for, escaping prison basically, and so the threat to him is that he has to serve a sentence for that, and also the rest of his sentence for the murder 17 years ago. And that's the reason why Royce is trying to prove his innocence, because he thinks his son's innocent. And if they can prove that, then the court may go easy on him and not give him time for escaping prison all those years ago. Kinsey also learns that the Fowlers aren't very likeable. So staying at the motel, she's just forced to see their interactions with each other, and they're all quite just grumpy and quite angry people. So Royce, the father, he seems angry at everybody all the time. He seems very arrogant, very argumentative. He seems to want to get his way all the time, and he's quite mean to his wife and his daughter Anne, who's looking after him. Ori is just obsessed with her health. So she's quite unwell with diabetes, but she just thinks that her lot is worse than everybody else's, and she's always going on about her own things and ignoring other people. And it's all about her, and she bosses her daughter around all the time. So the daughter Anne is just running left, right and centre, doing things for the mother all the time. And she's got to care for her mother because the mother is quite unwell. But there's a nicer way of going about things, and Kinsey sees this and senses all this while she's staying at that motel, and she just thinks that they're all quite unpleasant people. When the plot moves along to Bailey's hearing, his bail hearing for, escaping prison, he doesn't make it any easy for himself in this setting either. Something goes on at this bail hearing, there's a big scene, and Bailey's able to escape. So he escapes the arms of the law again, and he's on the lam again. It doesn't help his case at all, because people around the town, the police and all the people in Floral Beach just assume he's running away because he's guilty. During the time when he's on the lam, he does reach out to Kinsey a couple of times through phone calls, and Kinsey's trying to get him to give himself up, to go to the police and give himself up to prove his innocence, but he won't. So it doesn't help his case either. And Kinsey's being roped into this all the time because the police are aware that he's contacting her. So she's being roped into this, and she doesn't want to be. She just wants to get on with the job, try to solve this cold case, and get out of Floral Beach. What I really liked about this book was, again, the different characters Kinsey comes across, and she talks to them. And some are suspects in her eyes, and some are just witnesses, people she wants to get info from. But once again, the characters are very well written. They're very varied. We have people who are a bit shady. We just have people who look innocent, just have a bit of info. Some people are just unaware of what's going on, but she talks to them anyway. But people from all different walks of life again. Male and female, different ages, different backgrounds. Sue Grafton has again given us a range of great characters in this pool, in this mix. And once again, she proves that she can write great characters in a very short book. I won't go into all the twists and turns in this book because you should read it for yourself. But I'll just say a few things. While Kinsey is investigating this crime, she receives threats against her life. Seems someone's out to get her. Someone's trying to stop her from investigating. At least once, somebody has been in her motel room and searching in her room. And when she's trying to change motel rooms, I love the scenes between her and the motel manager, because he just comes across as this kind of doddering fool a bit, and there's just great scenes where she's trying to convince this guy that someone's been in her room and she wants to switch rooms, and he's just fumbling and trying to make excuses why he can't shift her room for her, and it's just really fun to read, and it makes for great dialogue and great scenes, and he's a great character in this book. But once again, Kinsey's stirring up a nest of vipers, and someone's out to stop her, and as she's going on to solve this crime, you get the sense that time could be running out for her. She needs to solve this crime, because if she doesn't, she could be on the list of the dead, because there is a serious threat against her life. Once again, there are many characters in this book you could talk about. The first I'll talk about is Royce. So Royce is Bailey's father, and Bailey, if you remember, is the person who was convicted 17 years ago of murder and is trying to prove himself innocent, and Royce thinks his son's innocent as well. Royce is not a likeable character. He stands out as a big character in this book, but he's not very likeable, and you don't feel empathy for him all the time in this book. Sometimes you do, but sometimes you just think he's just angry and mean and arrogant, and you don't like him at all at certain parts of the book. So he's light and shade. He's got multiple sides to his personality, but that just makes him feel very real. And you feel like maybe he's just frustrated. He's angry at the system, angry at the world, because his son has been taken away from him for all these years, and he just wants his son back before he dies. And he's got cancer in this book, so he just hasn't got long to go, and he just wants this case solved, his son proved innocent before he dies. So that's his frustration and his anger from that, I think, comes through a lot in this book. Anne is the daughter of Ori and Royce, and looking after both her parents while they're unwell. Anne also has a lot of light and shade to her character. At times she's likeable, at times she's not. A lot of the time she comes across as meek and quiet, but then you get a sense underneath that she's got a bit of a quick temper. Flashes of anger come through at times, and you just think, is that a sign of something? But you just get the sense that underneath, a good person comes through as well. But that sense of anger is always there, and you get the sense that Kinsey herself picks something up about Anne, but it's never strong enough to be sure about what's going on with her personality and the person she is. She must be a good person if she's looking after her parents, because her parents are quite demanding and they're quite unwell, so they take a lot of care. And it must be hard to do that and also help run the motel. So Anne is a mixed bag, but a very good character in this book and written very well. Dwight Shales is a good character in this book. He's a good suspect as well, because you got a sense that he could be guilty. He's got something he's hiding. There's something there that Kinsey's trying to ferret out from him, and he's hiding secrets. He was the school principal at the time where the teenage girl was murdered. does that mean that something was going on between him and this teenage girl? Because you learn that the teenage girl was having affairs with multiple people, quite often. Was he one of them? What's he hiding? And he's a very good character because when Kinsey talks to him at different times in the book, his answers come across as very rehearsed, a bit oily, a bit slick. And Kinsey's just got this sixth sense about him that something could be off about him, but she's never sure. All these things Kinsey's trying to find out, and it makes Dwight a great character in this book. Even though this book is not set on Kinsey's home turf, it's set in a small town where Kinsey's trying to ferret out a cold case. So we have two different things in this book that we didn't have from books A to E. A new setting for Kinsey and also the cold case. So even though we have those two things, I still enjoyed this book a lot and I rate it 4 out of 5. I thought Sue Grafton created another great mystery. The mystery in this book is really strong. It kept me guessing and I think it will keep readers guessing as well. I do like all the suspects in this book. I think they're again a mixed bag and they're so strong. Sue Grafton is just a master at writing suspects. They keep you guessing. And even if you've read this book more than once, maybe you read it quite a few years ago, seeing those suspects again, it's great because you just get a sense of how wonderful Sue Grafton's characters are in every book she writes. As I read through every book in this series, I'll do a book review and put it up on my channel. If you don't want to miss out on those videos, check out my channel and subscribe. I also have a Sue Grafton playlist on my channel. Should be on your screen now.